I am a second year. Wait, I'm a second year already. You're welcome. Do I just say good morning? Hi, my name is Anny Rodriguez Viloria, and I am a second year MPH student in Community Health Sciences at the Philippine School of Public Health, and this is episode 2 of Grad Talk.
All right, let's get into this. First question.
What sparks your interest in global health?
My approach to public health now as a career was via an interest in human rights and an understanding of health as a human right. And I think when we're talking about human rights, we're talking about like all of us, regardless of nationality and space and privilege. So I ended up finding a career in global health because it married both my interest in human rights and health as a human right and kind of a global focus that is not necessarily unique to like the global north or the global south. It's just like universally what is it that needs to get done so this right can be realized everywhere.
So going off of that one, question number 2.
Can you tell us about your professional experiences in global health?
I remember you've talked about kind of working overseas.
So my major is in anthropology and women's and gender studies, and I had a minor in human rights. And throughout undergrad, I felt like I never knew what my dream job was going to be, and I had no idea exactly where to aim. But I knew I wanted to be close to community organizing and that kind of like community-oriented and grounded work that had to do with health. Better if it was women's health and better if it was from like a human rights perspective. So I was looking for a lot, and one of the jobs that I applied for was a long shot, but it was for an NGO that's based out of the Dominican Republic, and they were providing labor organizing kind of support, but also a mobile clinic, like a mobile everyday clinic in the border of Haiti and the DR for folks who were usually farmers and migrating between borders every day, and because of that had no citizenship neither in the DR nor in Haiti anymore. So that spoke to like literally all the things that I just mentioned. It had to do with health, it had to do with rights, it had to do with like community organizing. And that's when I learned what my dream job was. It really wasn't intentional, but this like job description was like, dope, I'm gonna go that. Then from there, I went on to work for a different NGO that's based out of Liberia in West Africa, and very similarly was providing both community advocacy support, but more importantly, like policy advocacy, so that there was resources for community health for the most remote populations.
Number 3.
Why did you feel grad school was your next step?
I actually went through the application rounds twice. After my like 2.5-year stint in the DR, I was like, public health, that's it. I'm gonna do it. Now I'm gonna go get my master's. So let me just start applying now. So by the time that my contract ends in August, I can just, start school right away. So I went through the application process. I mean, I took the GRE first. Send the emails to the professors, and I was like, hey, I found my passion, help me get in there, write me a letter, say I'm good, and just did the SOFAS thing, got it, applied to 5 schools, got into 5 schools, was ready to go. And then when I already had the offers in my hand, I was like, no, I don't want to go back to school.
You went through all that.
Exactly, and I think that's why I had to spend so much time thinking about what that decision meant. So 2 things happened. One is that while I was applying to grad school, I also applied to the fellowship that got me to Liberia. So I said, what if I get into 0 schools? I need to have a plan B. So this fellowship would help me do community health in Liberia, so let me just apply for this. And when I got the offers, I actually got the fellowship and also got into grad school. And at that point, it was like, I can just go on and get more work experience, more life experience, also get paid like real money, not like grad school fake money, but like the real money that you get in the real world. So all in all, I was just like, I don't think I'm ready to go back. I'm kind of thirsty for like get more experience and meet more people and like solidify that. And also, I mean, I have to say that I'm speaking from a public health perspective, but also an international development perspective. And I think I just got to see the goodness of things, but the ugly side of things. I got to see just the colonial mindset that abounds within this field. And while I was in my fellowship year, I applied again because I decided, I'm kind of homesick. It's been like good 4 years, and I think I'm ready to go back.
All right. We're going to go on to question number 4.
What was your things just got real moment in your first year?
I think the first moment when I was just like, oh shit, I'm in grad school, is sitting through one of the, I don't know if it was epidemiology or biostats labs that we had to sit through for PH 200. Jesus knew in that moment that I was lost because I see a TA like pulling up into screen like state out or whatever, and they were like going through something, and I feel like they had us kind of like say aloud if we were like on the next step. Remember like they were like, okay, open this, okay, blah, blah, blah. Okay, click this, okay, type this, okay, and I could just hear the okay, and I was just like, do I start word or do I start Stata? I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. It's just one of those like moments where like a packed room of strangers was like getting it, and I was just like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I need water.
And I remember, like, I'm sitting there like, all right, like, it's not gonna go right now, and some guy raises his hand and he starts like saying all this stuff, and I'm like, how the hell do you understand? Like, oh my god, yeah, that was biostats, man.
Yeah, that was a trip, wasn't it?
Yeah. If you take me back to that point, probably at that point I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. But we did, right? We did.
Oh, we did make it. Oh, gee. We did make it. We did make it.
Congrats to us. We made it through that moment. That's funny that you said that. All right, question number 5.
How would you describe 2020 in one word?
Humbling.
Oh, that's such a good one. It's a really good one.
Yeah.
I was just thinking bullshit. Just bullshit.
I think bullshit is definitely right.
It's been real 2020. We won't miss you, but like Anny said, it was a humbling experience.
Thank you. Right. Next.
Yeah, next. That note, number 6.
How do you partake in self-care?
Just trying to like really set a routine that like is consistent and that makes me joyful. I go to my therapist every week, and it's just great to have an hour where my health insurance, then it just like talk out of my ass anything that I want and just really let it all out. So that's also a good routine that I'm fortunate to be able to have right now. And then there was a time at the beginning of the pandemic where I really got to do like my daily yoga and like my morning kind of like workout. And I think the energy just like started to like go down. And started to get like darker outside and like shorter days and colder, and you know how it goes. So I think I haven't actually kept up the exercise or like the yoga in the morning as much lately, but just making time for yourself, just knowing that like the next like 30 minutes are just for me and stretching, or just for me and like yoga, or just for me and like listening to a podcast while drinking my tea. It's just such, for me at least, it's just so rejuvenating, and I just feel, wow, okay, I made that happen, and it was just because I wanted. There was like no agenda for this thing. I just really just wanted to stretch, and I just did it, and I feel so good. So yeah, I mean, I think it's been possible. I mean, not having to commute, not having to do all this other like stuff, like has made it kind of like easier to find time to do like this like little like indulgent activities that you don't do otherwise.
I definitely agree. All right, number 7, sorry.
What is your favorite guilty pleasure food?
Okay, so I gotta say, I don't really have a sweet tooth like that, and I don't really like, like the greasy fast food that like is like comfort food, like pizza. um, Honestly, maybe it's because I grew up, not in the U.S. I grew up in Colombia for like most of my childhood. So like like the candies or like the bad food that like we would have, like the street food, is not like fast food, right? It's not like a chocolate bar. It was just more like this like I don't know, like bready, sugary things that you just find like in a bucket in the street. But something that I guess something that I like to indulge in is like hummus. This is weird, but I do like a good like creamy and garlicky hummus, and I've been like making my own. And I'm probably the most uninteresting person just for saying this, but I think I'm just interested in something like garlicky, savory, and like maybe like lemony over like pizza or chocolate.
I ain't hating. I like that. I like your guilty pleasure food. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong.
Oh.
All right. Question number 8.
What were your most important factors in choosing a grad school?
Yeah, so okay, so the things that I thought about choosing grad school, I think geography, I definitely thought a lot about. And I think because, I don't know, I had decided that I didn't want to be in the winter of New England. After coming back to the US, I just maybe was thinking like maybe like the South, maybe like the West Coast would be a good place to be. I was thinking about finances. I was like, there are different kinds of scholarships depending if it's like private or public. There are different kinds of jobs that I can get depending if it's private or public. So I just kind of had a massive spreadsheet that had like all the schools that I was interested in, like what is the max money that I would get? What is the least that I could get? Could I get a kind of a secure job? Could I get a remission of out of state if I was in out of state? That combined with like quality of life, I wanted to be somewhere where I knew I could spend like 2 years of my life and really enjoy it and make it kind of home. And then I think it might. So those two things I feel like are just essential for like everyone. Just thinking about like, could I be secure there? Are there ways the school are gonna support me being financially stable? So like, will they offer me again like either work study or like a TA-ship or research assistantship or something like that? And then is this place somewhere where I can see myself like just besides being a student, living a life for 2 years, like can I bring my bike and I bike around? Can I, find the beach? Can I, make friends that look like me? Whatever. All those things are definitely in my list. And in my case, I made the move with my partner, so it was just kind of like where can we compromise and where. It was an easy choice to come to California. It was kind of a top one for both of us. So
Quality of life is so important. So important. So, number 9.
Why is public health important?
let me put it this way. I feel like it provides us the language to fight for a basic human right that in our society we have yet to acknowledge as a human right, but it gives us the common language and the theory and the tools to make it happen. But I think that sounds like very like elite academic. you know I think for me what public health actually matters is because I've seen it like throughout my life, throughout like my family's like life. I come from like a long line of farmers and fishermen, and I know the fate of people who did not get vaccinated growing up and those who did, because I've seen in my work what it means to have like running water, what it means to have like all these things that are just like so basic, right? But that really have been the product of thinking about life as sacred and life as something that's worth advocating for and defending. I think for me, like public health is a space where like we get to, I don't know, just share the gift of life, um, which sounds cheesy and all, but I just, I think like from an academic perspective, I feel like there's just so much that we can get out of public health. But from like a human perspective, it's like, what else if not like life and health should we be fighting for? And public health happens to be a platform where there are plenty of us who are interested in advocating for these basic elements. So
I agree with everything you said, and I like how you kind of mentioned like there's an elite way to think about it, but a lot of people don't think in that way.
Exactly. Nobody out there in the field is like, I would like some public health interventions, please. They're asking for like, I like a job. And I like to be my family. And I think, the language that we need to be able to use in public health is that of like the basic needs that we have yet to meet, because I think that's like where public health is going to help us to get a step closer. Is that we're able to say that public health is having decent, well-paid jobs. It's like having schools that actually are educating the next generation, is having like to have a roof over your head without having to worry about rent. Like, if that is what public health means, if that is how you make people live whole and wholesome and long and healthy lives, then that is what we should be thinking and talking about. Besides like the qualitative like skills from the field that it has to offer, is like at the root is that we're fighting for like the most basic, the very basic,
Period. That's where we'll leave that off. Period. So number 10.
What kind of change do you want to see in public health?
I think I don't like the word reactionary, because it has been used to frame activism in a way that is politicized in a negative way. But I do think that politics are everything. Like, our lives are political, and we need to be able to acknowledge as a field that being the neutral party ain't doing no good for nobody. Like, we gotta be able to call it out and say, like, no, it's not 2020 what's shitty. What's shitty is to have a government that does not care about its people in a very tough time. It's just not by mistake that we're in this situation. It's all like a product of history and a product of policies that are really detrimental. So as a field, I feel like we have put in the effort to help us understand issues and understand them from like a health systems perspective, at a bodily, biological perspective. But I want to see us just talking about like, it was really this presidency of this specific era that made HIV a pandemic. It was nothing else but like a political decision of this specific person in presidency, So I don't think that neutrality exists. And as an anthropologist, I just don't believe that we can be detached from our experiences, like culturally, socially, etc. And I feel like just putting up this face of like, we're coming in as a field that's like professional and it has this kind of like, unbiased, etc. It's just not true. Like, we're all biased. I'm biased towards justice, and I'm biased towards my people, and nobody's gonna change my mind about that. So I think the field can also kind of like get with the times and say like, we can be political because our lives are political, period, and that's just it. And I mean, of course, there is like room for different opinions and like what type of politics we stand for as a field, etc. But I think that comes with like the field like becoming like, I don't know, better represented, but people from different experiences, people who can say like, hey, you're actually talking about like housing as a human right, not just like the theory or whatever. So it just like, it comes with like a lens of like political advocacy, but also just, I guess, with representation and like with more diverse like standpoints within our field.
Wow, that was just you just preached right there. Like, no doubt that you just.
So,
I don't
for me,
I don't even want to ask the next question. Like, we should just leave it off right there. That was a word.
dropping the mic.
But we do have to end with our bonus question.
Can you give us one piece of advice for those interested in attending grad school?
Mentorship is just key. It's so important. Mentorship matters so much. And I think if you're able to spend some time in thinking like, I want to do this, but who else is doing it and how are they doing it? And reaching out to those people and kind of like setting yourself up for success in that regard is important. But also because grad school can be really lonely, and it can feel very isolating, and it can feel like you're the only one worrying about this, or you're the only one having trouble with this biostats lab, or you're the only one thinking that this is beyond what you can do. But seeing people who have struggled and then made it is so reassuring. So finding those people and sticking to those people, and remembering those people as you're struggling through it is gonna help you feel like this path is not so lonely and crazy and hard to get through.
Thank you so much. This was great.
Thank you for inviting me.